Great. Well, once again, good evening, and thank you again for joining us for today's informational webinar. My name is Zoe Kossoff, and the purpose of today's session is to provide an introduction to the Teachers of Critical Languages program for teachers in China who are interested in participating as exchange teachers. Today, only the speakers will be able to use the microphones. However, if you have any questions, please feel free to type your questions in the chat window, and I'll make sure to answer them as we go. All right, well, to start, the Teachers of Critical Languages program, or TCLP, is supported and fully funded by the US Department of State. Our program officer, Michael Kuban, coordinates with us from the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. In cooperation with American councils, we implement this program in Washington, D.C., which is where I am today. And our staff includes Zara Hovhannisyan, the program director, myself, my name is Zoe, and I'm the senior program officer. And we also have two program assistants. We have Evangelista Barilski and Sarah Vanderhorst. In China, we have a wonderful staff member, Wang Hui. She's joined here today with us, and she works with us on TCLP. And we're all very dedicated to this program and its success, and we are always happy to help answer questions as you go through the application process. And of course, if you are awarded, the process of being a TCLP teacher. So here's just, a quick an overview of today's presentation. Please try and hold most of your questions until the end, because chances are good that we will address them as we move along. You will know where we are in the presentation when you see the table of contents box at the bottom of each slide. This will help let you know which topics will be coming up. So as you may already know, TCLP is designed to increase the number of American students studying Arabic and Mandarin, and the number of schools that offer these language programs. It also enables international teachers to learn firsthand about the culture and society of the United States, improve their English language proficiency, and expand their knowledge of US teaching methodologies. The program aims to increase mutual understanding between US school communities and visiting international teachers, and to provide opportunities for US and participant home country schools to develop lasting ties and to share educational best practices. Since 2006, TCLP has placed 318 exchange teachers at 203 host schools in 39 different states, plus the District of Columbia, which is where I am today. In addition, the program has directly impacted over 88,000 students throughout the US. Thousands of other students, teachers, parents, families, and community members have also been reached through cultural presentations and interactions with TCLP teachers. While this is not an exchange in the sense that there's a one-to-one person exchange, the word exchange comes from the fact that there's an exchange of ideas, languages, and cultures during the year and beyond. I'd like to talk for a bit about the real-world impact of TCLP. Here's what one student has said. I found having a teacher from China was enormously helpful, not just in learning more about the Mandarin language, but also in learning about Chinese culture. Some of the most invigorating conversations we had in class were when the teacher asked us questions about our culture. So this was coming from a 15-year-old high school student. We'd also like to share with you some results from the pre and post program surveys that we send out to students and parents who studied with TCLP teachers. while these are not scientific statistics, they do give us an idea of the direct impact that this program is having on students and language programs. So you can see here, the green bars are from before the program, and the blue bars are after the program. And these numbers indicate the percentage of students who report either good or excellent language ability after the program. So you can see there's a dramatic increase. For instance, just looking at speaking, it increased from around 25% all the way up to 65% after just 1 year. So this is self-reported data from students. So this is how students feel that their speaking, listening, reading, and writing skills have improved from 1 year of studying with a TCLP teacher. In the spring, we asked students and their parents to reflect on their or their child's Mandarin and Arabic language abilities, and to compare what they're feeling about their speaking, listening, reading, and writing skills from the beginning through the end of the year. And so I'll give you a moment to look at this chart on your own. But as I mentioned, the green represents before the program and the blue represents after the program. Oh, and I see we have a hand raised. Let's just save our questions for the end of the presentation, and I'll make sure to get to everyone's questions. All right, so here is another quote from a student who studied with a TCLP teacher. I have nothing to say except thank you for the amazing opportunity to learn a language and for going out of your way to teach us about Mandarin. I really look forward to learning about Mandarin in the future. So this is coming from a 13-year-old student, probably in the first year of high school. And I think this quote really shows that the program impacts students not just in terms of their language skills, but also in terms of their enthusiasm for learning the language and their understanding and appreciation of the culture. So in this case, and we've had many other students say the same thing, participating in the program encourages them to continue studying languages after high school at university. So in this chart on the left side, we asked students to either to indicate their satisfaction on the following items. So my teacher treated us all fairly and equally. 74% said that they agreed with this statement. My teacher showed passion for teaching either Arabic or Mandarin. Over 90% agreed with this. My teacher cared about my progress as a student. 84% agreed with this. In this class, I always knew what was expected of me as a student. 80% agreed. And finally, my teacher was well prepared. 83% agreed. And so I think these results speak for themselves. I think it suggests that TCLP exchange teachers largely succeed in their mission to grow both Arabic and Mandarin language programs and stimulate students' interest in learning about new languages and cultures. So I want to talk for a minute about who can apply for TCLP. One moment. So before you spend time filling in the application and recommendation forms, please take note of the following eligibility requirements. So to be eligible to participate in this program, International teachers must meet the following criteria. They must be a citizen of either China, Egypt, or Morocco. They must currently teach either Mandarin or English as a foreign language in a K through 12 school. So that means either a primary school or a secondary school, or elementary school, middle school, high school. But university would not qualify. They must have at least 4 years of classroom teaching experience. They must be prepared to teach for the entire US academic calendar with leave time limited to school breaks. So that would include winter break and spring break. They must have at least a bachelor's degree or higher. And of course, English language proficiency and in both written and spoken English. Just another note, applicants from China must also submit an application to CLEC. Each province has a different deadline, which is usually earlier than the TCLP deadline. So you should check with your province's education department, or you can also contact our colleague Wang Hui, who's joined us here today, and we'll make sure that you have her contact information. And just to continue off of the previous slide, individuals in the following circumstances are not eligible for participating in TCLP. US citizens and permanent residents of the United States or their spouses, any individual who's currently participating in academic training or research programs in the United States, individuals who have applied for US permanent residency in the past 3 years, individuals currently studying, residing, or working outside China, Ministry of Education officials, full-time principals or administrators, full-time teacher trainers, education consultants, university faculty, or private language tutors. Again, on the previous slide, we mentioned that you must be a full-time teacher of either Mandarin as a foreign language or English as a foreign language. Individuals who have participated in an exchange visitor program sponsored by the US government for a period of more than 6 weeks in the last 5 years. And then finally, individuals who have not submitted the application to CLEC. And so now I'll review what is included for participating teachers. So first and foremost, J1 visa support, a pre-departure orientation in China. Usually this is held in Beijing. Round trip travel from each home city to and within the US. A 9-day welcome orientation in Washington, DC. Well, it depends on the school, but it's approximately 10.5 months, a 10.5 month teaching assignment at a US host school. Professional development workshops, accident and sickness health benefits, assistance finding housing from the US host school, a living stipend of approximately $20,000 US, and additional housing in the form of a monthly housing allowance for the duration of the program. This is not an exact amount. It's calculated on the average housing prices for the assigned host community. And just one additional note here, after December 20th, participants may also apply for approval to bring their families to the US. And our guest speaker, Liang can tell us a bit about that in the next portion of the webinar. And I guess one other thing I want to mention here before we move on is the 9-day welcome orientation always takes place in either early to mid-August. And then at the end of the academic year, exchange teachers are required to return to their home country. The exchange period cannot be extended. And now I'll just take a minute or two to review the expectations of the program. One of the reasons that TCLP is such a competitive program is because we have very high standards for the teachers who come on the program. By accepting high quality teachers who are flexible and passionate about the goals of TCLP, we're able to attract US schools who are equally excited to host and make the experience a great professional and personal opportunity. This is not an easy program, as our alumni will tell you. There are many challenges and requirements for exchange teachers in order to help them get the most out of their year. So one of the requirements of the program is that all exchange teachers follow their assigned teaching schedule. They will receive this from the host school, and it will always include between 10 and 20 hours of classroom teaching per week. And then outside the classroom, when the teachers are not teaching, they are also expected to be active in the school community for an additional 20 hours per week, similar to the US colleagues. And so this additional 20 hours, it can include things such as faculty meetings, staff meetings, it could be classroom observations, it can be lesson planning, it can be helping with after school clubs, it can be other things such as helping monitor students during lunchtime, helping monitor students at the end of the day when they go to their buses to return home. So this 20 hours can include a lot of activities, but it is an expectation that TCLP teachers have between 10 to 20 hours of classroom time and an additional 20 hours outside the classroom. Keep in mind that you may also be asked to co-teach with another teacher at your host school. They may be another Mandarin teacher, and you may not be the only teacher in your classroom. So it's really important to keep in mind that flexibility is very important for TCLP teachers. So as I mentioned a moment ago, the out of classroom 20 hours can include developing lesson plans, designing curricula, working on your capstone project. The capstone project is a requirement for all teachers, and we can talk a little bit about that with Liang in a few minutes. Recess, homeroom, lunchroom duty, classroom observations, any extracurricular clubs, and then of course, TCLP outreach. This is another program requirement. You must have between 8 and 10 hours of outreach per month. So that's an average of 2 hours per week. In outreach activities, the goal is to build awareness in the school community or the host city community. And so this could be, a lot of teachers have done cultural activities, a lot of things related to food, such as making dumplings, making mooncakes, calligraphy, music, dance, also language related activities. I know teachers in the past have created language clubs for parents and families. So there are lots of opportunities with the TCLP outreach, and we can talk about that some more. And so here's some more details. One thing that I should note is that they are formal scheduled events. So this is something that should be planned in advance and advertised. So the idea is that you want to let people know ahead of time so that you can get a larger participation. And it should be directed at an audience that is not the regular students. So this could be students within the school who are not studying Mandarin, or it could be community members outside the school. And it should always be connected to either Mandarin language or Chinese culture. Volunteer work or clubs that are not specifically focused on Mandarin do not qualify as outreach. And I will also mention that, of course, fulfilling these outreach requirements, again, it's between 8 to 10 hours per month. It's ultimately your responsibility, but the host school will help you identify opportunities in the school community to share your language and culture. So you will absolutely have support from the host school when it comes to planning and organizing these events. And so I'll also mention here that it is always expected that TCLP exchange teachers participate in all aspects of the host school academic, professional, and community activities when school is in session. Additionally, participants must submit monthly reports, photos, and videos of their progress and their activities. Teachers are required to attend all TCLP professional development activities. So this includes orientation. We have 2 workshops. We have fall workshop and spring workshop. We also have virtual webinars. So this is all required. And exchange teachers are expected to be active participants who are engaged in their school's activities and community activities throughout the year. And of course, the goal is growing their host school's language program throughout all of this. And then I'll also mention here that exchange teachers can remain in the US up to 14 days after the last official day of school. So that means that if your final day of school, and this is including exam days, if your last day of school is on June 1st, then you would be allowed to stay until June 15th. And I'd like to just review a couple frequently asked questions. So the first one, I currently teach 5th grade students. Will I be teaching 5th grade in the US? The answer here is maybe. The application asks what level you currently teach and also asks what levels you would be willing to teach in the US. We use this information to help match you to an appropriate teaching placement, but it does not guarantee that you will be teaching the exact same student age that you have in China. Can I choose my own placement? Unfortunately not. Placements will be determined by a variety of factors, and if you are selected, you will be notified in the spring of your placement. If you do not like your proposed placement, you can turn down the offer for the grant and tell us that you will not participate in TCLP. Can I work another job to earn more money while I'm teaching with TCLP? Absolutely not. You cannot take another job while in the US if you are here with TCLP. This would violate or break the contract that you have in your visa agreement. If you take another job while you're in the US, you will lose your visa status and be sent home. Is it allowed to bring family? The answer here is maybe. Families may visit TCLP teachers during the exchange. However, the program is unable to offer financial support for family members of participants to come to the US. TCLP teachers apply to TCLP for approval to bring family members. After approval, family members may arrange to arrive in the US after December 20th and must depart the US no later than 14 days after the last day of school. This waiting period exists so that you the host school and American councils can be certain that your family's arrival will not detract from your main purpose on TCLP, which is your professional work. What if I want to keep working at the school after 1 year is over? Can I stay in the US? No, you cannot stay in the US after your year with TCLP is over. Your J1 visa will only be good for the time you're working at your host school. Then you'll have to return to your home country for 2 years to fulfill your visa requirements. If I am chosen for TCLP, will I be able to talk with my future host school before I arrive? The answer here is not directly. We ask that the host schools and the teachers not talk directly in any way prior to meeting in person, because we feel that one of the most important relationships that you build over the year should only begin with a face-to-face meeting. We understand the cultural importance of relationship building in China and the US, And this is endangered when there are miscommunications over email or Zoom or Skype, etc. TCLP staff can pass along questions from the host schools or teachers, but you will not be allowed to contact the school directly. And finally, will I have to return to China at the end of the year? Yes, your return date depends on the last day of school. As we mentioned, it's always within 14 days of the end of school. And this, of course, varies from school to school. Each school has a different schedule. So now I'm going to turn on my camera. One moment. I'm just moving this chat window. I'm going to turn on my camera. And I would like to invite our guest, Liang, well, first I'll give a quick introduction. So Liang is joining us today from China. She was a participant several years ago in 2019 through 2020. That was a very eventful year with some unexpected changes. And she's here today to talk a little bit about her experience in the host school itself, but then also in the host community. Liang also invited her family to join her, so she can talk a little bit about that experience and how that process worked. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Liang. Thank you so much for joining us today. Oh, I think you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, hello.
So nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. So first of all, I have to apologize. I have some problem logging in the Zoom, but
no
finally
problem.
I get in.
I'm glad you could make it.
Okay, so can I start right now?
Yeah, so could you start by telling us a little bit about the photo at the top with the welcome sign? Uh-oh, I think you're frozen. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, but just
I think you froze for a moment, but could you tell us about the first photo on the top?
Okay, so the first photo on the top is the airport. Is the El Paso airport. That day I arrived in the city, and as you can see, there are my mentor teachers, liaisons, and leaders of the district. So they all came to the airport to pick me up, and they also organized a little like a welcome. I feel very warm. So when I got there, and I think it's a very good beginning that I can have so many people support me.
Yes, and can you tell us a little bit about where you were placed? Where was your host community?
Okay, so my host community is the Mesita Elementary School, which is located in El Paso, in Texas. And El Paso is a border city with Mexico. So is and the school, the Mesita Elementary School, is a bilingual language school. It means that Chinese language, Mandarin, is their third language, because the students there learn English and Spanish half. So Chinese language is kind of the second foreign language for them.
Great, thank you. And so what about these two other photos in the classroom? What's going on here?
As you can see, the bottom one, the kids are wearing some traditional clothes. Actually, that day is the Mexico Day. And also that day is the Mid-Autumn Festival in China. So actually it's a very special day. And I was given Mexico dress. I don't know if you can see clearly. I was wearing a dress, And in that day, I taught my students to design the mooncakes. So I think it's a very interesting activity on that special day, because two different kinds of culture meet together on that day. So the kids also tell me something about the Mexico Day thing and their culture, and I share with my culture about the Mid-Autumn Festival, the story behind it. So I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, this is a really nice example. I mentioned a few minutes ago with TCLP, the word exchange does not mean an exchange of people. It means an exchange of ideas and an exchange of culture. And so I think this is a really nice example. And I'll also just say that, of course, Liang, I know that you were in Texas, and so you learned a lot about the Mexican community and about Mexican culture, Spanish language, but other teachers in other areas have different exposure to different communities, different cultures. So of course, the United States is very diverse. And so each teacher will have a very different experience depending on their location.
Yes,
So
I do agree.
Yeah, so let's talk about these photos. So let's start with the one on the left. Was this an outreach activity?
Yes, it was. It is in the city library, and as you can see, I was teaching some citizens. I think it's not. Yeah, most of them I don't know. They just came to the city library to join my Chinese painting little class. Yeah, so I was teaching them about the blowing painting thing. Yes, they use the straws to blowing their paintings and to make some flowers. Yeah. So actually, the outreach thing can have different kinds of people to join you, not only your students, but also other students from other schools, and even adults, their parents can join you.
I think this is a really nice example too. We were talking before, of course, outreach should be directed towards people outside your classroom. So in this case, you said you're at the public library, so you're outside the school building, and you are not familiar with these people. So it's an opportunity for you to meet new people, to make new connections. And it's also an opportunity for people outside the classroom to learn, in this case, about brush painting.
Yes, yes.
What about the bottom photo?
On that day, it is like a recognition of my participating in the school. So as you can see, the lady besides me is the president of Masita Elementary School, and all the other guys behind us are all the leaders, from the community.
Yeah, I know that this was a big recognition, and I think that also speaks to the quality of our teachers. We are a very selective program. We have very high expectations for our teachers, and we're always so happy to see this sort of recognition and success in the host community.
Yes, by the way, it's very honorable day. Yeah, it's a very honorable day that I can be given such a recognition, and also it is a very great day that my host school to have me in the school. Actually, I'm the second year. I'm the teacher of the second year. And the year before me, there's also another Chinese teacher. So actually the program can pass on in the school. That's a very good thing.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. So one focus of the program, of course, the main goal is to build Arabic and Mandarin programs. But a big focus is creating long-term sustainability. And so as you mentioned, schools can apply for several years. And so for Mesita Elementary, you were the second teacher. And I know that you played a really big role in continuing to build the program. And of course, the program is still going very strong today. We have a teacher there right now. And so TCLP teachers play a really large role in starting programs, but also building and continuing programs. So this is a little bit more focused on your experience in the community outside school. Can you tell us a little bit about these activities?
As you can see, the top one, I was making dumplings there. Actually, I was making dumplings with my neighbors. They're all my neighbors, and they are very interested in Chinese food. So I said, okay, this weekend we can make dumplings together. So I think it's a very good activity to build a good relationship with your neighbors. And also, yeah, it's a very good family activities to join them. And I think it's relaxing. Yeah.
I was going to add, food is always the best way to build relationships. And of course, here, dumpling making, it is a great family activity. The kids can join in. It's a fun way to learn about food and also enjoy it together. I think it's a really nice way to build community.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And the bottom photo is actually during the first 2 weeks transition period. I was with my host families, yeah, and on that day I cooked some Chinese dishes for them, so they are so excited, and we took a picture to memorize the day. Actually, I cooked some dumplings and hot pot, yeah. So the kids and their mom and dad love it.
And what about the last photo?
The last photo is the all the colleagues in Mesita families, in Mesita elementaries, they planned a kind of picnic or thing or barbecue thing. Yeah, so it is in the backyard of one of the teachers, and the baby I'm holding is also the baby from a woman teacher there. So we had a very relaxing afternoon weekend there, and we had some different food and barbecue, and yeah, enjoying the backyard.
Was this at the beginning of the year or the end of the year?
I think it's during in October, I think, the second month.
Yeah, I asked that because I just wanted to point out that the host school communities always make sure to welcome the TCLP teachers. And so I think, I know the Mesita community was very, very welcoming. And so even at the beginning of the year in the fall, you were participating in these sorts of activities outside school. So it's the point of the program. The main goal is, of course, teaching language, teaching culture, but it's also building social connections. And of course, in these informal settings, you can still share language and culture. You can still make connections with people. And so I think, this is a great example of building those social connections.
Yes. By the way, I want to mention that. Okay. Yeah.
Wait,
actually,
no, here we go.
It's okay. Actually, in Mesita Elementary School, there is a kind of tradition that the teachers from each grades, they will have a plan to ask me out. So actually, yeah, every month I'll have activity like hanging out with the teachers from different grades. So I think that's a very creative idea, that not only the grades I teach, but also the other grades, the other the colleagues that I can have chances to hang out with them and to exchange our ideas and cultures.
Yeah, I think that balance between the professional and the social is a really unique opportunity. And I think all of our teachers, of course, while they're at different schools in different states, different cities, I think all of our teachers have similar experiences, no matter where they're placed. So Liang, was there anything else you'd like to mention at this time? I think this is the last slide we have of your photos.
Actually, I would like to say that as an exchange teacher, during your time in the program, you can learn a lot of things, not only the language thing, but also the education system. So it is also very beneficial for you after you go back to your home country, that you can use the what you learned, what you have seen, what you have observed, to put it into your class and to benefit your students. So actually, when I come back to China, and I am teaching the English of grade 7. So I use a lot of teaching methods that I learned in TCLP workshops, like the spring workshops, the autumn workshops, to put them into my class, to my class management. So I think it's very good
Well,
for
actually,
your own.
That makes me think of a question for you. So you just said that in China, you're teaching 7th grade, but I know that at Mesita Elementary, you were teaching much younger students. So what was that experience like for you?
So actually, in China, I have no experience teaching like 2nd and 3rd grade students, but in American, that during that year, I have a total different experience. I have to admit that at first I kind of have to adjust it for a little bit time, but then I find out that younger kids, they're more I think they are more interested and more open to a different culture. So whatever you want to share with them, they are very excited to listen to you, to do the to learn from you, to share things with you. So I think is better to, for me, I think it's better to teach younger students about the cultural thing. But for the 7th grader, they are kind of their own cultural things is dominated kind of. So for younger kids, all different cultures for them, they are very welcoming, I think.
And when you say that there was an adjustment period at the beginning of the year when you started teaching the 2nd and 3rd grade, was there anyone who helped you and supported you during that adjustment?
Of course, we have mentor teachers and liaisons, and I sometimes I will share my the problems I have, or some difficulties I have with them. So they will give me some useful advice, and they will tell me kids like the 2nd or 3rd graders, what they prefer to do, with what they dislike to do, so that I can adjustment to my teaching plan, and then my class will be more suitable for the kids like that.
Yeah, and I think this is a perfect time to mention that when we talk about the host school community, of course, there are, all the language teachers, all the other teachers, from different grades, different subjects, who are there to, help and support you. But there are 2 people who are assigned to work with you throughout the year. It's the mentor teacher and the community liaison. And so these 2 people work with TCLP, and they also work with the exchange teacher all year, and they provide a lot of support in the school itself, but also in the community. I know that they help you locate housing, they help you figure out transportation, things like that. So TCLP makes sure that you have plenty of support throughout the school year. So I think now we'll move on to the next portion of the presentation. Liang, again, thank you so much for sharing your experiences. And if you don't mind waiting until the end, we can answer any questions at the end of the presentation.
Sure, of course not. I will just wait for if there are any questions, then I will be willing to answer.
Great. Well, so then I'm going to turn my camera back off. Just my internet is a little slow today, so I think turning the camera off helps a little bit. So I'll turn my camera on again at the end. All right. So let me just adjust my window a little bit. Oh, well, and actually, Liang, I forgot. I wanted to ask you a couple of these questions. And so during your year, well, we talked about the support of the mentor teacher and the community liaison, but what would you say when you first arrived? What were the expectations for your schedule? What did your teaching schedule look like?
You mean my expectation or my real schedule about the teaching schedule?
The school expectations. So when you first arrived and you received your teaching schedule, what were the expectations of the school, and what did your schedule look like?
As I mentioned, I taught the second and the third graders.
Mm-hmm.
So so I have like 39 period of classes every week, and each class lasted for 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So and I every month I have 2 hours outreach, and every week I have 1 day like monitoring the kids the lunchtime.
Mm-hmm. And so I remember a few slides ago, one example of your outreach was that painting activity at the library.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I think here, I know that your classes were very short. You said 25 minutes.
Yes.
Other schools have longer classes. Sometimes classes can even be 2 hours long. So every teacher has a different schedule. Every school has different expectations. The one thing that applies to all TCLP teachers, all exchange teachers must have between 10 and 20 hours of teaching. But other than that, it depends. Every single school is different. Every teacher experience is different. Some teachers teach independently. Some teachers co-teach with another teacher. So I think that's important to keep in mind. And then I know that we already talked a bit about the role of the community. I know that you, connected with your neighbors, making dumplings. You connected with your colleagues at, the picnic, the barbecue. But I'm wondering, how did you make those connections? How were you introduced to those people?
Okay, so can I
so how did you make those connections to start with? When you first met your neighbors, were you introduced to them, or did you say hello? How did you make those connections at the beginning of the year?
Okay. Actually, I have to mention that I rent an apartment just across from my school because I don't want to live very far away from the school. So the neighbors around me, actually most of them are some parents or grandparents of the kids in the school. So actually I was introduced to my neighbors with the help of my mentor teacher. So yeah, we just say hello, and sometimes I will bring some little gifts from China, some special little gifts from China, and say hello. And some of them, they stop by to my house and share some cookies, homemade cookies with me. So that is how the connection began. And also I, like most of the time, I always say yes to those invitations. Like the neighbors ask me to join their dinner or to go out for a little trip. I always say yes. So yeah, so when I say yes to their invitations, and then next time if I want to invite them to do something together, they probably will say yes. So I think that's a very good thing when you are in a like a strain in a different situation or
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I think we always say at the
don't refuse. I mean, just say yes to their invitations, and then the relationship will, don't just say yes. Yeah.
Oh, I think there might be a delay with your video. Yeah, so I think, TCLP always says at orientation, be open, say yes. If someone invites you to a baseball game, someone invites you to dinner, always say yes. And this is a great example. If the teacher shows openness, then the community will reciprocate that. And it creates a really nice pattern where if you say yes the first time, then the neighbors will likely say yes the next time. And so I think, openness is another expectation of TCLP teachers, that when you arrive, and I know that some people are more shy and some people are more outgoing than others, but either way, the expectation is to be open and to say yes to things of this nature, to make connections. And so I want to move on to the living arrangements. Do you have any advice what teachers should do to prepare for living in the United States, or how they can prepare for living in the United States?
I think it depends on whether you would like to have your families to come to live with you for some time, or you just like live by yourself. So as for me, I have my husband and the kids to visit me for some time. So at the very beginning, when I want to rent an apartment, I said I prefer to have like a little yard, and it's better to live by for 4 people. So you have to think about it before you decide which house or which apartment you have to rent. And also, if you, I suggest that if you you don't want to have your families to come over, probably you can have a roommate, like native roommate, a roommate that will be very convenient for you. Sometimes you go shopping, or you have the that your roommate can help you to do things like that. And also you have to decide whether you want to buy a car or rent a car for your daily life. And I think that's very important because in the United States, if you live far away and you don't have a car with you, it's inconvenient. So all the things you have to consider. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll add here that different teachers have different preferences. So we have some teachers who live with a host family. So they live with an American family, and usually it's either in a guest room or sometimes a little apartment next to the house. Some teachers have a roommate in an apartment. Some teachers have an apartment by themselves. Some teachers apply, of course, Liang, like you did, apply to bring their family to the US. So, you know, different teachers have different housing preferences. So I think it's important to kind of think ahead of time what your preferences are. Do you prefer to live in an apartment? Do you prefer to live with a host family? Things like that. And of course, transportation depends on the city. If you're in a city like New York or Chicago, then of course the public transportation is more than enough. But in a city like El Paso, Texas, maybe a car is more convenient. So I think that depends very much on the location. And so then one more question for you, Liang. What kind of professional development opportunities were offered at the school at Mesita? Were there any professional development activities there?
Oh, yes. As for the professional development, I'm very grateful that my mentor teacher, Sharon, she always care for me whenever she knows there is there is like a workshop thing or training thing, she will help me to sign in and then bring me there. So actually I do have some experiences on the training thing or lectures or workshops. Yes, I think it's also very beneficial for you to have such kind of experiences. And also I think because as I mentioned, Mesita Elementary School is a bilingual thing and bilingual school. So actually the training in the school is also the similar to like in China we have Chinese and English, and in Mesita they have Spanish and English. So actually their training is also similar to our training too, just like the different languages. So I think it's also very it's also very good for your career development.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning those things. You know, as I mentioned, TCLP offers workshops throughout the year. We have our orientation, we have fall workshop, spring workshop. We also have virtual webinars, virtual events throughout the year. But of course, the host school offers its own events and its own trainings. So there are many professional development opportunities for TCLP teachers through the program directly, but also through the host school. So thank you for sharing those. Well, so Liang, I know that I said before, I'm going to turn my camera off again now, but we'll come back to you at the end in case there are any questions from the attendees.
Okay, no problem.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I'd like to talk about some of the details related to the application process. So to start, here is an overview of the timeline. So first, the TCLP application is due on January 10th. Please don't forget that a requirement is that all Chinese participants or applicants also submit a CLEC application. The deadline is different it depends on your province. So again, you can either contact the local Bureau of Education, or you can contact our staff member, Wang Hui, to find out about this deadline. But do remember that there are two applications, the TCLP application, which is due on January 10, and also the CLEC application. So semifinalists will be announced in early February, and then they will be invited to interviews in late February. And then the finalists are announced in early March. The pre-departure orientation will take place in June. This is usually in Beijing. And then teachers will arrive to the United States on August 4th, or rather, usually it's one day ahead of time, so likely on August 3rd, and then orientation takes place from August 4th through August 12th. And then after orientation, you would begin teaching. And so this would take place between August and, depending on your school, either May or June. And of course, the host schools go through a similar process where the host schools are applying, the host schools are interviewed, and the host schools, the mentor teacher also attends the orientation with you. So how are applications evaluated? So strong candidates will have a variety of professional and personality traits. This includes your professional educational experience, demonstrated leadership. This could be at the school or in your community. Of course, flexibility, we've talked a little bit about that before. Flexibility, openness, also maturity, and the ability to participate in an academic exchange. The ability to express your ideas clearly and effectively, and demonstrated commitment to current pedagogy, and also willingness to adapt methodology. Of course, one of the main goals of the program is professional development, and TCLP teachers show an interest in learning about US teaching methodologies. Also, willingness to co-teach in the US classroom. Again, some teachers teach independently, others co-teach. This just depends entirely on the host school and what the host school needs to build their program. TCLP looks for openness to co-teaching, and of course, potential for developing long-term linkages between US and Chinese educational institutions. So this could be a sister school relationship. It could be, any sort of virtual connection. It could be, there are lots of different ways to do this. But TCLP does look for potential for developing long-term connections. And as you apply, just do be aware that any applications that have copied information from a website or from another application will be immediately disqualified. This is called plagiarism. It's a very serious offense in the United States. We will not consider applications that have been copied from someone or from somewhere else. Do not take this chance. Make sure to write your own application. And so I'll walk you through the application process. So this is a screenshot of our website. And under the Apply tab, you would select Chinese teachers. And on that page, there's a link to the ACE site. And so ACE is AIS. And so here you can create a new ACE account. You can create a username and a password. And once you do that, you will receive an invitation email from the email address at the bottom of the screen. It's aceaccounts@americancouncils.org. If you don't see the invitation email, make sure to check your junk and your spam folders for the login information. And then once you have your account, you can begin working on your application. If you start working on an application, you can save it and come back and work on it at another time. It will appear under this section called My Forms. So you can save it and then come back at another time. You don't need to complete it all at once. And you can save by either you can hit the save button, or anytime you click next, it will also automatically save. We do recommend that just in case you hit the save button about every 20 minutes or so, just so you don't lose any of your work. One other thing you should keep in mind is that each application must include a completed recommendation form from your school supervisor. So what happens is when you're working on your application, you will include your supervisor's name and their email address. And then the ACE form will send the recommendation directly to your supervisor so they can complete and submit it. If you're worried that your school administrator or principal will not let you leave for 1 year to participate in TCLP, you can share with them that your participation can be a great benefit to your school in China. You will gain new teaching methodologies, practices, improve your English skills, and learn more about American culture to enhance your English classes in China. Not to mention the fact that you have new connections with American schools that might be interested in starting a partnership. And so I think Liang Yan kind of indicated this a few minutes ago. She was saying that, throughout the year, different things that, she learned about, first of all, teaching pedagogy, but also, culture. She was able to bring that back to her school. In the United States, she was teaching 2nd and 3rd grade, but even that experience has benefited her teaching 7th grade. So if you think that your school may be hesitant about the program, you can, explain that in the long term, participating in TCLP for 1 year will bring long-term benefits to your school. If your principal is interested in learning more, please let them know that our colleague, Wang Hui, who's here today, Wang Hui will be hosting a special webinar for school principals on December 23rd. And so if your principal might be interested, please let them know that they can join that webinar next week. So that's on Thursday, December 23rd. You can also learn more at our website. So that brings us to the end. I'll turn my camera back on. Are there any questions for either myself or Liang Yan? Wang Hui is also here to answer if you have any questions about the CLEC application. If you have any questions, you can just go ahead and type them in the chat window. All right. I'll just give another moment or two. I know we covered a lot of material today. We talked about program requirements, program expectations. We talked about the application process, and of course, Liang Yan's experience in El Paso, Texas. Any questions? All right. Well, first, thank you everyone for joining us today, for learning about TCLP. Again, my name is Zoe. If you have any questions, you're of course welcome to contact TCLP staff. Here you can see our email addresses for the TCLP team here in Washington, DC, and also Wang Hui, who's located in Beijing. Liang, thank you again for joining us today. It was so nice to see you and to hear about your experiences. All right. Well, thank you again, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your night. And please let us know if you have any questions. Thank you again.